What up, everybody? This is Steven from the 20 to 40 podcast. We're back again. I believe this is episode 5. We're back here again. Today, I'm going to be hosting. I'm here with Aubrey and Sirod. Today, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence. Just what is it? How are we using it? And what is the future looking like for everybody once it expands more, right? And I guess to just start off, I just wanted to give a little definition of, when you hear the terms AI or artificial intelligence, just what that definition actually entails is it refers to a development of computer systems capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as reasoning, learning, decision making, and perception. AI encompasses a wide range of technologies, including machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processes. And so I guess I want to kind of start off. We were kind of talking about it beforehand, but I just wanted to shoot it out to you guys. Like, what is your thoughts on, obviously being millennials, and we talked in a past, one of our past episodes, just about how we were a different type of generation due to the fact that we had internet and pre-internet, and now the reason I wanted to talk about AI was just that AI is like the new internet for everybody and how that might be a really big jump. So I just wanted to, kick it over to you guys and say, what do you think of AI? How are you using AI type thing? Just what have you seen about AI and your feelings on it?
Yeah, I think one of the big things about AI is like, having gone through like the internet and what that changed is like understanding things can change in a big way. Like, before the internet, it was kind of like the dial-up modem. This is cool. This is different. And then you kind of see 20, 25 years later, it literally changed everything. So understanding that things can be changed, like they won't stay the same. So I think AI is on that same thing. I think one of the big things that I started seeing is like, things can change in a big way and you got to be ready for it. Like I have, friends and family members that, for example, or, family members of, friends that are truck drivers. And I've been, they were talking about the trucking industry. And I was like, y'all know in like 5 to 10 years, there's not going to be any more driving. Like soon it's going to be no more driving because technically when machines drive, it will be safer. We have a lot of accidents. You got to understand where things are going. It's kind of like what Wayne Gretzky says. He said, I don't skate to the puck. I skate to where the puck is going. And you got to understand that things are changing, right? So if you're setting up your whole life based on, this is what it is now, and I work for this and I have this job and make this hourly, what happens when that changes? Just like when internet came along and there's no more operators when you call into the phone line. If y'all like 50s and 60s, you would call into the operator, they would plug you into another thing. That's not here anymore, right? So it's like understanding that if you build your foundation on stuff that's changing and shifting, which I think AI is doing that, you're gonna set yourself up for some pain. So understanding that things can change in a big way and be okay with that and go to where the puck is going. So that's one of the biggest things. So that I've seen with AI and it's here, it's already here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, iRobot, you know what I'm saying? Eagle eyes, run, nigga. You know, run. I would go to the job market. We're talking to these people who are trying to figure out what they're gonna be doing with their life. Everybody think, like you said, Aubrey, everybody think their job is safe. Everybody's like, no, I'm good. Man, I remember Blockbuster. Again, it's funny when you don't realize some of the stuff you knew. Like I knew Diddy did it back in, 97. All this stuff's coming out, but there was something in me that was like, yo, Diddy did it. He got way too popular. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but he got way too popular way too fast. And I was like, he must have had something to do with these two other major artists' death because he's not as talented, but yet he's taking their spot. Blockbuster, I was like, something's not right about this Netflix thing and this Blockbuster thing. I said, I feel like Blockbuster should be changing their model, and they ended up disappearing. So I feel like people need to be very careful and understand what AI is. We were just talking about ChatGPT and the tool that it is for you, and you better start learning and better start using it. I don't know. I would say cops and some of the jobs that I've done, I do HR now. I think I'm good, but I was just telling Steven, they were like, oh, well, don't use ChatGPT. No, I use it because I'm trying to be faster. And again, we are from an era where we had to dig a little deeper. We did have to go to the library, as I said in another episode. So I feel like we can reason ourselves and understand what is actually good information and what's bad, because it's still a computer right now. It's still not, doesn't have that human reasoning, but it's getting really good, and you need to be using it to save yourself time. A lot of what we talk about is the time we want to spend with our family. We want to get this wealth, these monies, so that we can spend time with our family. Use ChatGPT and save that time, and don't fight it. And I think people fought the internet, people fought Netflix, people fought Uber. People are fighting all this stuff. I mean, when's the last time you seen a well, y'all like I don't know y'all metropolitans, but I don't see cabs no more.
Nope.
Right? So don't fight the change, embrace it. And I think that's where people should always be going with like you said, with the puck analogy. Follow the change and try to embrace it as best as you can, or you'll get left behind.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good point, right? That the evolution that we've seen with just technology in a very short period, right? Like, I was born in '85, and just that '85 to 2000 gap compared to the 2000 to 2025 gap, I feel for like technology, it's just been a straight sprint, right? When once we got to the internet and we got these things, and that kind of leads us into, we're really talking about, like Aubrey said, following, going to where that puck is going to be. And a lot of the workforce is already being implemented by AI, right? I know everyone sees the Waymos with the robotic taxis, which, I don't know if people know, but a lot of the highest gig workers are probably Lyft and Uber drivers, right? And how that would impact. And I think they call this like the fourth wave, right? The change that's coming is going to change not only society but the workforce, because obviously we're not having. I think our birth rates are declining globally, so there's going to be less people. So once the boomers actually, transition, there's just going to be less people, right? So you're going to have to do the same amount of work with less people to work those. And I guess my question would be, how do we feel about, I know Sirod was joking about iRobot. iRobot is actually one of my favorite movies just because of how, realistic it was. The Audi that Will Smith had, that was the R8. Well, the version of it, right? I digress. But a lot of what was in that movie is now, having a subconscious artificial intelligence running a building, like in iRobot, is now a real thing, especially in China. China has some of the most autonomous warehouses. And I know there's a lot of talk now about trying to bring manufacturing back, but how do we think that is going to change, what our workforce is? And no longer is it going to be people in these warehouses manufacturing cars and doing all the manufacturing. It's going to be robots. So then what happens to those people that depend on those manufacturing jobs and our productivity and what we build here in America and how we do that? So what are your thoughts about just that wave that's coming, that fourth wave?
I think one of the things that people have to be aware of is like, you got to transition from the hands labor to you got to start having thought labor more in your repertoire. It's just, you got to understand we're not in the, industrial revolution anymore. Like, people that make the least are the people that just use their hands. It's just the way it is. I was listening to this book and it said that the biggest cause of poverty is low income. And that might be like, what are you talking about? Well, what it is when people have low paying jobs, it's hard for them to claw their way out because their cost of living keeps taking up so much of their income. So what that means is you got to learn how to earn more. And the biggest thing that we have to realize is that you can do the right thing at the wrong time and it still not work. But if you do the right thing at the right time, or even the kind of right thing at the right time, it's going to work, because timing is everything. So you got to understand, now is not the hands-on muscle, like labor type of era. This is the thinking and using your brain. And that's one thing I think that is the hardest thing for people, is people don't want to think. They just want to do, which is cool, but that's not really going to get you by anymore. And you got to understand that you're going to have to use this thing to really think about, what do I want to do? How do I want to build it? What's going to be best for me? Where do I want to go? Kind of like we talked in another episode. What are my goals? If you just think that getting a job at the corner store or the mall or the grocery store is going to get you there, it's not going to anymore. And it's been kind of like going down this for a minute. So this next wave where there will be robots doing a lot of stuff, there's, the humanoid robot from Tesla's coming out. You've already seen it in probably some of their Tesla stores. There's a robot in there. Like it is going to happen, right? There's not going to be factory workers picking up boxes and people it's not. So you got to ask yourself, where does that leave you? And that's why we do this 20 and 40 podcast, because maybe these weren't some questions we were asking ourselves at 20. We weren't like, yo, what's up? Do we need to? It was kind of like, what pays the most? But you got to understand, you got to start thinking about where the puck is going now. Like we talked about, it's not what pays the most, what's going to grow the most and what's going to be the best. So really thinking about, things that use faculties of you that can't be reproduced by a robot. There's some things that just can't be reproduced. So that would be the biggest thing I would say is like, you gotta start thinking, man.
I remember when I went to visit North Dakota and you were introducing me to Bernie Sanders the year you got married, and we were arguing about it. And I remember pretty much kind of saying that in regards to we were talking about like income inequality and how Bernie Sanders could help with some of those items. And I was like, man, if you force the company to pay XYZ, I was like, they're going to replace them. Every time I go to the airport, and that's like what was that, Steven? Like 7 years ago? It was when me and Kim got together, so 8 years ago or something, a long time ago. Bro, I can't go to the airport without looking at all the machines and no more airport workers without going. I told that nigga Steven they was gonna replace them. You go to McDonald's now. There's nobody at the counter. They're all working fries. Put your order in up there. You got old people at the front. Like, I just want to talk to somebody. They're like, man, I'm on burgers. She's on fries. You have to use this machine. So like you said, the boomers are getting left behind, whatever. But everybody else, it's actually, we're kind of getting into that realm right now. I'm like, damn, it actually is kind of scary, man. Because I'm like, if the machinery that's taken some of these jobs that you would think were not going to go away, especially the taxi and the Uber driver and all that. You got Waymo, you got Tesla just released their automated taxi service, I think in Texas. It's like, damn, where are these people going to go? Because Aubrey, in the real world, not everybody's a thinker. There's some people that they like to work with their hand. They don't always think up here. They're good at putting a house together, but they just need someone to tell what you need. I need 4 bedrooms. Bam, 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 bam. So that does get scary for that 17-year-old that maybe has just lived his whole life working with his hands, doing stuff in his house. And now you're like, hey man, a lot of that's going to be automated. Start trying to figure out how you can be a part of that process. Does anybody have an idea how they're going to be a part of that process? Like, I couldn't do that shit right now. I couldn't start typing codes and 01s and 001s and writing, programs and shit. Like I'd be screwed.
And I think that's the big difference, right? Like when we were going through college, a lot of people want to go get into coding, right? Everyone was like, it was all about software and app developers and
Yeah.
all different type of engineering. Well, those people were getting paid a lot of money coming out of college, right? And now with AI, those are the first jobs gone. Well,
Yeah.
because you also have to think about it, right? Like a company, one of their biggest overheads is going to be, the employees. And so if I can get an AI model to do the work of 5 employees at a better cost, that's all businesses care about is the cost model, right? And but I think while it is scary that you can, a lot of people that work in warehouses or just in what we talked about on a prior, like we want to be able to give, working at McDonald's, working at fast food, working in retail. That's how we grew up in the 20s, right? That was always our first jobs that we were having. What's going to happen for our kids when it's time to try to go out there and learn those skills of being in the workforce and they're just not there anymore because, like you said, McDonald's doesn't have people really working it like that. Like there is no customer service. Half the time you call customer service now, it's just an AI chat bot trying to just get you to the right thing, right? Where the efficiency, while it might save money, I hate talking to those things because if you don't say the right thing, they're not getting you to the right person, right? Um, and I think what has to happen is especially those people that want to be carpenters or plumbers and all those are still skilled labor, right? Like just because you work with your hands doesn't mean it's bad. But my father-in-law, that's all he did. He was a carpenter. He's built every single house he's ever owned. But I think what has to happen is you have to be the best skilled laborer now, right? So if you're going to open your own carpentry business, how can I use AI to maybe help make my business a little bit more efficient? Because efficiency is going to help you make productivity, which is then going to cross over into you making more money because you're being more efficient and you're using your time better. But you have to be able to integrate it. And the people that fail to integrate it are going to be losing that time, which is going to lose productivity, which is going to lose them money. And I see it firsthand here as an attorney, just because everyone is just trying to get the research part of this job done, right? Just trying to figure out what's the answer. But it's hard for an AI chatbot or chat GPT to draft things, because when they in New York, a guy got in trouble because he used Chat GPT to draft his briefs, and what he was citing for law was imaginary. It never existed. And then when the Supreme Court in New York looked at it, he got in trouble because when we signed things as attorneys, we're saying that it's true and accurate to the best of our knowledge and ability. Well, clearly you lied and signed that when you used AI, right? So, but those are just things. So I guess how are you staying up and staying ahead on AI and researching what's going on and developing? Because Sam Altman and them, they're billions and billions and billions of dollars are getting funneled into AI, and billions of dollars are getting going to like NVIDIA and all the chip processing and just the infrastructure for it. So how are you guys keeping up on just this is going to be like not just straight about it, but investing in AI, or researching and trying to figure out what's the next moves to try to get to the puck before somebody else. So how are you guys navigating staying up and getting ahead on AI?
That's a really good question. I think I'm gonna give you two parts. I'm not the best at adopting AI. So if somebody's like, man, I don't really know, I'm not the best. I don't chat GPT a lot. My wife does more. I've learned to kind of be proficient at it. I think that's one of the keys is like, don't ignore it. Like for me, honestly, I'm like, yo, I still want to use my brain. I don't want to just rely on it for everything. So I don't really use it that much, but there is some things that you can use it for, and just understanding how. Like I didn't know, like I got a blood test for some new life insurance I got, and she was able to just screenshot the results, put in, and you can upload it into chat GPT and say, hey, explain this to me like I'm 5 years old, and it broke down all my numbers, which I didn't know what this level being that meant. So that was really cool. So just understanding that can happen. I didn't know you could upload pictures into it and have it explain certain things to you. I didn't understand. So understanding what it can do, I think, is number one. Like don't just, it's kind of like understanding what the internet can do, that you can look up things, that you can search, that you can listen to music, understand what it can do. And then also, I think biggest thing is like quick transitions. Like I've had to transition in my life sometimes. Like me and my wife have a fitness and nutrition business, and there was one time when it was doing really well, like 7 figures a year in sales, right? And then COVID happened, and it kind of changed some things because people's habits changed after that. And it could have been like, boo-hoo, this didn't, go all the way I thought it would go. It's like, no, I got to transition and make it quick, because the more time that we spend crying and complaining is less time and effort and energy that we have to fix things and get to the next level. And then we shifted and we're doing, good. So I think that's the biggest thing is don't be so mad about it should be like this. And, it's kind of like that nostalgic feeling like, man, Blockbuster should be here forever. It's like things going to change. Just get with it and move, because you've only got so much effort and energy in a day, and any wasted is what you lose out on. And then the last thing is like investing, like you got to be invested, because if you heard what Steven and Sirod said, they gave you the clue. They said companies only care about the profit, and they do, because we're in a capitalistic society. So what does that mean? You got to become a capitalist. You got to become an owner, right? So the biggest things is you got to start investing in the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the U.S., because the U.S. is leading AI right now. And then QQQ is the top 100 tech stocks in the US, which you want to be heavily invested into, right? Even if it's $50 a month, $100 a month, you've got to become an owner, because the benefit's going to come from AI, but you want to get some of that benefit because it is going to stream up to the owner. And then the last one is this ETF, which is like an index fund of a lot of companies called AIQ, which is all AI companies in one index. You just buy the AIQ index, and it's like a compound of all the AI companies. So that would be the same. The biggest thing is become an owner and use those three. S&P 500, which is VOO, Vanguard's QQQ, which is top 100 tech stocks, and AIQ, which is a combination of a lot of AI stocks.
LeBron is the GOAT. Trump is the president. Drake is better than Kendrick. I don't know why I said those, but look, what I was thinking in my head was like those things make people really, really mad. These conversations make people really, really mad. Get over yourself. Trump is the president, right? LeBron is the GOAT to some people. Get over it. Stop getting honed in on that little thought and letting it cloud your judgment. You know what I'm saying? And with AI, like I was telling Steven before we started, like I just couldn't believe how hard this HR instructor was so mad at me for when he was like, "What kind of resources can you use to help with your cases?" And I was like, I've been using ChatGPT, but and I'm like, so if I'd have said Google, that'd have been okay, because ChatGPT is better than Google, but people were so stuck in their ways, and you know what? I just laughed. When she gave us assignment, I used ChatGPT for the whole thing. I was sitting back playing on my phone while everybody else was flipping through the pages, and my answers were the same as everybody else's. So this is one of those times where, I mean, maybe I lost like $5,000 in Bitcoin, but a lot of people, I think only like 3% of the world is invested in it, but it's still trillions of dollars, so it ain't going nowhere. So to me, it's like I'm just trying to be first to these things. I'm trying to get out of my own way, invest a little bit of money and understanding to try to stay ahead of the curve and just embrace it. And so for me, it's just like don't be afraid of it. Don't get mad at it. Don't stay stuck in your old school ways. Continue to embrace it. You don't have to turn it into your whole lifestyle, but definitely embrace it as best as you can. Like you said, Aubrey, you're not going to understand every aspect of it, but read books, watch videos, stay on top of it because it ain't going nowhere. And at some point, you're going to realize your whole world's surrounded by it. Just like everything else that changes that people fight. You can fight it all you want. It's coming. It's not going anywhere.
And I think we've put a lot of positive spins on AI because I think there is a lot of good that does come from AI and how we navigate it, how I try to navigate it. I'm in the Aubrey bucket. I'm not very up to speed on it. I know how to use it, like to use it to basically data scrape the internet to get quick answers on certain things. I guess I'm more reserved on using AI just because of, right now I feel like AI is the wild, wild west. There's not really a lot of rules and regulations on it. I know in this quote unquote big, beautiful bill that's going through, one of the things that's in there is that there's going to be a 10 years that that states can't uh, put any regulations really on AI, right? Like they can't
Yeah.
try to stymie AI, which for me is always who's holding the keys to the keys, right? Because we know with the people that are in power of these things that it's their perspective. Now I get AI is going to grow and build on its own as well, but they try to feed and limit the knowledge because as soon as usually some of the horror stories of AI that we read, and this is why I read it all. I like to see what it's good to use for, but what are some of the sides that they're really not pushing? Which is as soon as they let some of this AI just go and scrape all the internet, people have to realize now when we talk about internet, like what 5 to 10% of the internet is actually the lit internet, the light act, like the part that you can access, and like 90% is like the
Dark
dark
web.
web, right? Like where no one can go or get traffic to unless you know what you're looking for, type thing. Once they usually allow AI to go through, the responses and the craziness that these models then come back and tell, like putting humans in zoos because they're too dangerous, or when they look up what we do in war and certain things that we do, like their responses to things become very dark. And I guess the kind of put it in that sense is, what do you think might be some pitfalls when it comes to AI that people should also be on the lookout? Because I know we talk about all the good, there are some bad things out there. And what are some things that you may be either scared or nervous, if not handled correctly, do you think AI could spin out too?
I think one of the biggest pitfalls is like I kind of talked about earlier is people don't like to think already. And I get it because think it takes effort, energy, and awareness and intention. I feel like a lot of people are using it to not think even more. Like, what's my homework? Right? Because I'm gonna be real, right? A lot of homework in college I didn't do either. I get it, but like at least I had to kind of put some effort into it. And I did feel like if you start that so early, like what are high school kids gonna be doing soon? Like if you're using in high school, using in college, like when are you gonna build your skills? Because if your only skill is turn into Chat GPT, then you make yourself even more replaceable because they can just go to Chat GPT themselves. So I think that's one of the biggest things is like using it as too much of a crutch instead of a tool to accelerate, using it instead of yourself. Like you got to still build some skills. You can't like outsource everything. So I think that's one of the biggest things when I see is like, imagine you go through all of college just using Chat GPT, then what did you really get besides a paper and some tuition? Like when you get to your job, they're still going to be able to tell you didn't build a lot of skills. So I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding you can't outsource your everything. You got to still use this. And if you can use this to maximize ChatGPT as one of your tools, even better. Just like sometimes you're going to need Google, just like sometimes you're going to need to see somebody that's a little bit further along in your journey and understand how to talk to them, ask them for advice. That's not something you can do on ChatGPT. You got to have the awareness to see, like there was a gentleman I met at the bank that had a painter shirt on. He owned his own painting and, like hard work labor store business. I went up to him at the bank, was like, hey, what's going on? I see you on. I got some job, got this thing. Now he's my personal dude that did like my roof for a great price because I went straight to the owner instead of going through a company I met on Google that sends me somebody that's got to make their part and the person's got to get paid too. Now I'm getting charged 3 times the price. That's something you can't learn on ChatGPT. That's something you got to learn how to do by doing it and having the awareness to see there's people in this world that have things that you guys can work together on. So I think the biggest like risk is like becoming even lazier, like DoorDash, all these things make people lazier that they don't want to do nothing. It's like just another thing to not do nothing. I'm like, then when are you going to do something? Is what I kind of see. It's like a big risk. People, there's a cartoon movie where people are like blobs in a chair. I don't know if y'all seen it. Like they're on this cruise and they become blobs in a chair because they don't have to do nothing. They don't have to make the food. They don't have to work out. They don't have to do nothing. They just become blobs in a chair that eat food. And I feel like that's where the world is going. You ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to even get out your house. And I'm like, bro, it makes people so soft that they really get hurt. So that's the biggest thing.
I'm not too worried about it. I was in charge of like 100 and something people at the police station. Some of them were idiots. Some of them were smart. Some of them thought on their own. Some of them need to be told what to do. I'm not too worried about it. I think it's like Matrix, eagle eyes environment that you're trying to scare me into. It's not working, Steven. All right. I'm not worried about it, at least not in my lifetime. So to Aubrey's point, you got a lot of people who are going to be slobs on the couch, but there's a lot of people out there that's going to be busting their ass. The world is so large. I'm not too worried about it. That's pretty quick for me. Like I'm just not too worried about it. I just know so many different types of people, and there are going to be people who adapt. There's going to be people who try to use it to be super lazy, but there's going to be other people who use it to create new empires and new businesses. If you think about this same topic when it came to email or internet or any of that stuff, you could have had that same argument. Man, people are just going to get lazy and they're going to go through college and they're just going to use the internet. No, but people like us understand I can't just use the internet to answer this, to write this paper. I have to go do more. There's plenty of those people, and there's plenty of people like Steven who just copy from the internet and get a F on the paper. So,
I did do that. I did do that.
the old Steven. I'm sorry, the old Steven.
I guess when some of the stuff that I'm reading that kind of scares me about AI is just what's going on with warfare, right? Where obviously we're filming this right after the whole Israel, Iran, U.S. conflict, and just how from when we were 20, how just warfare has changed throughout that part, and now how a lot of it is falling on artificial intelligence. And just a quick story was that the Air Force was using artificial intelligence to, send out missile strikes, right? And they were using the AI. And so AI was being controlled by one of the military members. And then what was happening was the AI was figuring out that it's actually delaying itself by waiting for a human to tell it what to do when he knows what the AI can do it itself. And it started bombing things that it wasn't told to bomb. Well, the shut it down, restarted it, and they did it again, which was basically saying, hey, you can't do this now. Well, what the AI did was, since it couldn't do it itself, it started taking out radio comms. So then the human couldn't tell it what to do, and it could make its own mind up on what targets to hit. And then it had to shut it down. So every time, so what I think is happening with when it comes to the military side is it's really taken away the humanity, right? Usually right now when we drop bombs on people, there's an attorney somewhere in the military that has to go through and sign off that it passes LOAC, right? And that it follows all the rules of international law and the Geneva Convention and stuff. Well, when the problem I see that it's going to get to is we already have nothing but drones and all these things that just drop bombs because people see it on the screen. I think it's just starting to make war more of just what war really is, and the humanity side be pushed back to the wayside, because a lot of the weapons companies now are just using AI to find people quicker, to kill them quicker, and to locate them wherever they are quicker by scraping social media, internet, all these things to try to find geolocations for AI to put all together to try to find where it's at. So, I guess that wasn't what I wanted to end off with. So I guess what I would ask is just, what could we do, right? Like what are some things that people can do just to try to balance those good and the bad, right? And then I guess this will just be like the last question. It's just what do you do specifically on just trying to make sure that I guess the one thing that everyone would say is using AI with morality, right? Which I guess that you could use anything to the detriment if you want. But is there anything, any other words on how you just want to use it, or to keep yourself from falling into some of those pitfalls that we talked about?
I think I got to get a bulletproof and an extra gat, because you talking about that Air Force stuff. I got to be ready for them to come in, bro. Get me strapped up, bro. You scared the shit out of these people, bro.
Yeah, bro. I thought we were talking about like McDonald's cashiers and shit. He's like,
you went from McDonald's to dropping bombs with
they bombed the city of Hakla, okay? They bombed it because the algorithm told them to, okay? Hakla is not a threat, okay? But the algorithm said it is a threat. What the fuck is going on?
Bro got super dark web on us, bro. Like, damn, bro, I gotta start doing the joint with a cat right here. AI cats, bro.
The AI, it ain't me, it's the AI.
Yo, this was his plan the whole time. He waited to the end. We was talking about college papers and shit. He's like, Ahmed has been targeted because of his Facebook page.
That wasn't how it was supposed to go.
Yeah, bro.
He was saving that shit.
It only said after Pep went. That's what I was like, what?
Because I said I wasn't worried about it.
Sides to it, like, okay, but
Jesus.
I think you just got to be prepared, bro. The biggest thing is be prepared and don't stick your head in the sand. And to be honest, though, we got to be aware of stuff like that. I didn't know about the Air Force story, so you got to be aware of stuff like that, because it can happen, bro. Like AI is gonna be like, there's some of the stuff you guys do as humans that don't make sense. It doesn't make sense a lot of the stuff we do. Let's be real. So if an AI machine learning comes in and says, why the hell are y'all eating like this? Maybe I should stick y'all in cages and not only feed you 2,000 calories, because that's what you need. Like, if you looked at it from just a rules basis, that does make sense, bro. So I don't know. You got to keep your head on the swivel. You got to be aware. You can't just stick your head in the sand. And last thing is get your investment on. Be a part of these companies that are going to grow, because I think these companies are going to continue to grow with less workforce, so they're going to be more profitable. But you can either be mad at it or you can profit from it. Which one you going to? Like they say in marriage, you can either be right or you can be happy, right? Sometimes you got to just be happy, bro. Like, get your profits on. So that's what I do.
I'm gonna stick with I'm still not too worried about it. The NSA, the CIA, the FBI. I mean, there's so much shady shit going on. I'm not surprised about the story you said, but I think there's probably thousands or more over the industrial revolutionary age of technology or advancements screwing us over in one way or another. They're probably listening to this conversation right now, so this might be the last time we talk to you, Steve. You're putting out classified information on podcasts and shit. So I'm not too worried about it. I don't really live my life too worried about advancements and how they're too bad for the world, because, like you said, fat people are bad for the world. I mean, it's just kind of out of my control on a lot of stuff that goes on. When they hit my house, that's when I'll be worried about it.
It just let me be up. Like I only say all this just to say what Aubrey said. Just keep your head on a swivel. Like, don't be naive, and that just goes for life, right? Like, just don't be naive. There are great uses for a lot of technology, but technology could also be used for bad and horrible things. And it's just research, really learn, really try. And that's all this podcast is always trying to be. It's just trying to give you knowledge and the ability to actually, maybe hear something, be able to research it, and then see. And, that could be something that you didn't know you had an interest in. And then now you're like, wow, like there's so many different parts of AI that if you're interested in, now is the time to get interested. Now is the time to figure out what it is, and helping yourself move through and try to find, we were talking about, what the job market could be after all this. This is a perfect time to maybe just start researching on different AI jobs, different AI investing and all that type of stuff, but just not to, just take all the good, but also understand that with everything, with great power comes great responsibility, right? That's Spider-Man. So, RIP Uncle Ben.
Episode 5, why AI can kill you.
Yeah, right.
We're all dead.
So, but okay, we're gonna wrap it up with that. That's episode 5. We just want to thank everybody that's been supporting, listening, clicking, likes, giving back all the positive feedback and constructive criticism. We really appreciate everyone. So keep doing it, keep tapping in, keep liking, subscribing, and doing all that. And then to the next time, we'll see you again. This is the 2040 Podcast.
Let's get it, y'all.